I decide to shove all in for $171. My opponent we're going to play a tournament. I'll let you know how it turns out. First off, I'd like to apologize if my voice starts to sound a little raspy. I am under the weather. And as you can see here, this is me buying into a cash game. So you can assume, yes, correctly, that I busted the tournament. It was a 100K guarantee with a $250 buy-in, and I went out in epic fashion. We'll skip over that. I decided to buy in for $360. And at this point, I really need a win, because like I told you last video, our bankroll at this point in time was getting really low. We are about an orbit and a half into this cash game, and in the big blind, I look down at two beautiful cowboys. There are 3 limps, and the cutoff opens to $26. Folds to me, and I'm of course going to 3-bet. I'm out of position here, and I think I should have made it larger, but I sized the $60. It folds around to the original raiser, and he calls. We are heads up to a flop that is 10 of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 4 of diamonds. Fairly good flop. I'm first to act, and I bet 65, which is exactly half pot. I probably could size up here also, but I need my stack to be larger. I only have about $236 in total before this bet, and I want my turn pot to stack ratio to be above half pot, so I only go with a $65 bet here. The cutoff calls, and the turn is the 5 of clubs. That's a good card given how this hand has played, and now I decide to shove all in for $171. My opponent pretty quickly calls, which normally isn't good news, but then he asks us, do you run it once or twice? And I say it's up to him. He wants to go twice, so I think that's good news, and I'm ahead. If you are new here, this is my journey of going from a recreational poker player turning into a professional poker player. If you're interested in something like that, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like on this video, and come along and join our community. The first river is the 8 of diamonds, bringing in the flush. That's not good. The second river is the 3 of spades. I decide to show my kings, and he quickly mucks his cards, which is a great start to this session. Before you get too crazy excited, I look down at an Omaha hand of King 7-7, sadly no suits, and the small blind opens up the action after I straddle the button to $20. There are 3 calls, and now it's on me, and I go ahead and 3-bet to $80. It's right back on the small blind, and he jams all in for $141. Everyone else folds, and clearly I'm not folding, so I make the call. And of course, as always, he has aces with 7-3, so he has one of my outs. That's not that great. We elect to run 1 flop with 2 turns and 2 rivers. The flop is 3-3 brick, but there is a turn 7 on the first one. But the river on the first run out includes an ace on the river. And I'm pretty much drawing dead to 2 kings. The second turn is an 8, and the second river is a queen. And we go ahead and lose this pot. So although I would like to say we ran it to the moon, we kind of ran it up on the first big hand and then lose some back here. Then I look down at this beauty of an Omaha hand and punt off $90 with a semi bluff. The board runs out what I think is favorable for me of 2, 10, 2, Jack, Queen, and I shut down on the river, and my opponent wins with Ace, Ace, 7, 4, a better 2 pair. But I think if I pot this river, he folds. Omaha is tough to bluff in though, especially when you are a novice like me. I win a few small pots in between, and our stack's sitting right about 575-ish right now. And on the button, I decide to straddle, and there are 3 calls, and I look down at a very provocative 6-7 of spades. This hand works well as a bluff to balance my range, and if I get called, it has good equity multi-ways in position. So I add $20 to the pot, and the only caller I get is the cutoff. We go heads up to a flop that is ace 3-4 with one spade, and my opponent leads into me for $35. This is kind of odd, and he limped pre and then just called my raise, so I'm going to assume he has some type of weak ace holding here. There are a lot of turn cards he won't like if I choose to turn my hand into a bluff. So I call. The turn is the 5 of diamonds, and once again, this is an easy game, ladies and gentlemen. Now my opponent bets $60. Calling here is completely understandable and fine, but now that he's being very aggressive and with the way this hand has gone, I feel he may be fairly strong with a possible 2 pair like ace 3 or ace 4. Add in my nut straight here is very concealed. I take some time to decide on a raise size, and I go large to $180. My opponent is now in the tank, and to my surprise, he might be sniffing this out. A deuce does make a wheel straight, but I'm expecting him to assume I would never raise preflop with a deuce in my hand. This is the $12, and I decide to 3-bet him to $30 with the old 7 deuce offsuit. He calls, so I try to goad him by saying there's nothing wrong with folding. He clearly says he has a good hand, and he asks if I will show him, and since he just subscribed to the channel, I say sure. He does fold, and I pass him the cards, and he says a few explicit words while I laugh. So the very next hand after this one, I am in the cutoff and look down at ace jack almost suited. There are a few limps, and I raise to $20. I get one caller only, which is the same gentleman who we beat in our first hand with kings, and I just showed the nuts on the last hand. So when the flop comes 2-3-8 rainbow and my opponent checks to me with this very dry board, I continuation bet for $25 and try to take it down here. He doesn't take too long before making the call. The turn is the 7 of diamonds, and he checks to me once again. And here I am going for the double barrel bluff on this hand against this opponent, using my image and previous hand history against him, and I think I can get him to fold all of his pairs, including ones with an 8. So I bet $55, and it works. I take this pot down. Now we head back over to the Omaha streets for a minute as I perform so well in this game, and there is one limp. I'm sitting under the gun +1 or middle position, however you want to describe it, because we're only 7-handed. And I decide to jokingly, not so jokingly, raise to $6. I do this sometimes in an attempt to allow the pot to be bigger on the flop for bigger bets by me to possibly push people out, or in case someone wanted to limp aces and then re-raise them pre-flop. At least I would know before the flop. It might be stupid, but it's not a bad way to create some action. Sometimes 4 players come along to my $6 raise with a flop that is 6 of clubs, 8 of clubs, king of diamonds, beautiful 2 pair, and the nut flush draw for me. I bet $25 and get 3 callers. Now the turn comes, the 10 of clubs. Awesome. I would have preferred a club that didn't bring in the straight flush, but I'll take it. Under the gun checks, and I bet $100, and all players fold, and we go ahead and scoop up this pot. This next hand, I am in the big blind, and there are 2 limps. It's on me, and I look down at ace king offsuit. I raise it up to $23, and in an unheard of idea, I once again in Texas get this pot heads up to the flop, which is ace king queen. I decide here to get a little tricky. He didn't raise or re-raise me pre-flop, so the only hand I possibly worry about here would be 10 jack, and I want to get some value from such a strong holding, so I check to him, and the opponent decides to check back. The turn card changes absolutely nothing with the 9 because 10 jack is still the only straight, unless he now has pocket 9s and got a set, but I can't worry about that. It's time to get some value, and I bet $23. The opponent gladly makes the call, and we are off to a river card that is the 3 of spades. I try for the same bet one more time. Michael Jordan, $23, but he lets it go. And I think the check on the flop earned us a call on the turn, so that was worth it. The tournament started at 6 p.m. We busted at 10 p.m. It's getting way late for me. It's about 1 a.m. right now, so I decided to go ahead and rack up and head out. I'm in this game for $360, out for $875 for a profit of $515. Minus the $250 I lost in the tournament. For the day, we are up $265.